What is really going on here? You're never going to find out from the media. They're a part of the problem.
Fix the Media, an independent media solidarity production, with your host, Peter Klein.
I'm your wicked Uncle Ernie. I'm glad you won't see or hear me as I fiddle about. Your parents left me here to mind you. Now I'm doing what I want to. Yes, you know what? I'm going to chit-chat tonight. This show is, I missed the last show. I threw my back out, actually. And so I'm going to just, as a result of all the morphine, I figure I'd be best. I'm just kidding. There's no morphine. There was no pain relief whatsoever there. But for example, earlier in the day, Saturday, I was in bed thinking, well, if I lie down, and it was suggested to me by a close friend, a good friend, that I should do some sciatica stretching. And as it turned out, he said, do a search for sciatica stretching so you can, and it turned out that I didn't. And so anyway, I wound up in bed, and it was painful just laying flat. So I'd turn on my side. Well, the process of rolling over or just shifting my hips, I was literally I was concerned about bed sores. So thank you for being flexible, and also thank you for your concern. A couple people did reach out saying, where the hell are you? Give me stuff and things. Stuff and things is what I am known for, apparently. So what better way to show you care than to reach out and ask for stuff and things? I do it all the time, actually. I've had a lot on my mind lately, and there are a lot of things that we need to do. A lot. And I'm also a little frustrated and a little, disenchanted, and disenfranchised. Well, we knew that. I was already disenfranchised long ago, but I was thinking I'm coming up on, I will, later on in the month, I'll be 49. And I was thinking, boy, next year I'll be able to say things like, for half a century, I have never engaged in, whatever. All kinds of things I haven't done. And, in some of them I'll be very proud to say I haven't done, and other things, though, probably a lot more things that, I haven't done that I would wish that I could have done or will eventually get to do, maybe in the next half century. But it's cool because, as a superhero, I imagine I might be able to live as many as 365 years. Wink, wink. That's a wink to Professor Doom. 365 years precisely would be my estimate. And you know what? If you set your mind to it, it's kind of like, I wonder if it's like a placebo effect in a sense, where, just the expectation of living to, I have no real no serious, I do have cluster headache. The Life of Adam, product, it was our second documentary from IMS, and it was promised it was my suggestion that we have it out on Christmas Day. It was 2 days late because of my, cluster headache episodes. It was just, I could not avoid them. I was going into a stupor at one point. I had an amazing dream, very realistic dream about the future. And it included some unusual people I would not have, one person in particular would not have expected. Anyway, backing up. Thank you for tuning in to Fix the Media. And this kind of impromptu show, it's at its scheduled time, which is correct and good. But it's also going to be a little bit of me gabbing away on various things. But I think I do a lot of reading of material. I'll write an article for the show and read it. And my tendency is to try to kind of like, add a little bit of, I'm attendant to my, presentation, and so I'm conscious of it, which I think makes it not flow naturally. But it's reading. So how, some people might be able to read, like I know Obama can read those damn teleprompters, and he turns his head this way and gives you the pow. He turns it, and he's got it down. He's pretty good at it. And then the thing goes off, and then he starts talking about, when I was a prostitute on the streets of Hawaii. I mean, he should be like Hillary, though, and get the earpiece. So I've started a lot of topics, and what I'll probably need to do is interrupt myself every 10 or 15 minutes, go back through the recording and find out what the hell I was talking about. It's the beauty of recording. And these are recorded. I mean, we're not yet doing a live show. It would be super cool. Earlier today, actually it was yesterday now, because it's very early morning or very late evening, now Saturday, but yesterday evening, fairly early, I was conferenced by Professor Doom and Wolfgang Halbig, which is great because I haven't spoken to Wolfgang in a very long time. I was able to say some great things. One thing I told him was, I was able to say some things I had been meaning to say to him for a while and just keep forgetting, and also it was neat to hear from him and hear what's going on in his perspective on things. People have a problem with Wolfgang Halbig. It's just, I don't get it. I get it. It's like, sure, I could be an intelligence agent, right? So I don't get it. I think Wolfgang's legit, and, all signs point to that. However, he's got his flaws and faults as anyone would, and he even said so when I was talking to him earlier today or yesterday. So, but when we talked, I did make sure to mention I had read through his the hit piece that was written on him. Okay, so Wolfgang somebody wrote something, I think it was either just under 100 or over 100 pages in length. And it was detailed documentation. It was like somebody had done a background investigation on Wolfgang, going all the way back to his birth certificate. You know what I mean? All the way back to the very beginning. Or rather, I don't know if it did include that. That's the gist, the general essence of it. And it was jam-packed full of information about himself, his family, his wife, his marital relations, his education, his various employees, he got involved in local politics to a degree. He wrote a couple letters to, some prominent figures, and not just, it wasn't like writing a letter off to Elvis. Do you really eat peanut butter and banana sandwiches, Elvis? Write me back, bro. No, it wasn't like that. It was because he had a legitimate interest and there was something there that he was pursuing or whatever. But as I read through it, I realized that, on occasion, it was written in a kind of narrative way where there'd be a page of information that would be kind of like taking you, bridging the gap between the last document, something to do with maybe a divorce or a marriage or whatever. It would then take you to the next piece of information. So it was, chronological. And at times it would have this call out, a big heading, a subheading or a footnote or something. It would be like, can anyone really believe that Wolfgang thought that? What? So in other words, this was a hit piece that I thought I read the whole damn thing. Not word for word, but I read through the whole thing. And I was hoping to find, not hoping to. It would have been a lot easier, I bet you. Then I could say, yeah, he's a shill, guys. No. But I read through it and I was thinking, you know what? It's very likely I'll find something in here that will be suspicious. And then I'll have to doubt Wolfgang Halbig and, disbelieve in Santa Claus and stuff. So it was clear, though, as I read through it, they had nothing on the guy. Or it's the guilt by association thing. Your son had a DUI. Can you imagine? I should tell you about my friend Jay. It's really funny. First of all, this is a guy who he literally crashed 2 cars on prom night and literally totaled 2 vehicles because, he first asked his uncle, I believe his uncle's name was Mike, as I recall. He asked him, can I drive your Triumph to prom? He said, yeah, sure, go for it. So, we were partying back in those days. So and I was not going to my prom. I actually took my GED and graduated, the California proficiency exam at the end of my sophomore year. And it wasn't that long after that, I was emancipated and joined the Navy. So it's, And so I was around kind of on the periphery. And so earlier in the day, I saw Jay. He was having a good time. And, he's like, hey, I'm going to buzz over here and grab my tux or whatever. And that's the last I saw of him. And then I heard the story. He goes and gets drunk and smashes his uncle's Triumph, totals it. So it's that whole thing, right? But it's still early enough in the evening that it's like, all right, you're still going to go to prom? Huh? Yeah, come on. I can't just miss, All right. So he decides he's going to go to prom. So he asks his, another friend of ours, Noah, hey, Noah, can I drive your Camaro? He had one of those bitching Camaros type Camaros, right? Which he really prized. I think the story is that he passed out and was driving down a residential street. It was a 25 mile per hour street. He was clocked, I think they estimated the speed to be around 80 something miles an hour as he just drifted off into, came to an intersection and then just plowed directly into a house of a really hot chick that she was way over, out of my league. Lisa Carr, I'll just say it was Lisa Carr. But anyway, he smashed into Lisa Carr's family home. And as he came out of that, he looked down and there was a weed pipe on the seat and beer cans and stuff. So he knew he was in trouble and he totaled his friend's car. 2 cars, 1 prom night. Plus he also was one of these guys who, when he liked to have a good time, he liked to have a good time. And he was always the guy that was like, did Jay just crack his skull and start convulsing? Oh, that sounds like something he might do. He was a real nice guy and a real smart guy. But he had his issues. And hey, to be honest, or to be fair, he conquered his alcoholism, as I understand it, because that was like very early stage alcoholism stuff. And anyway, he wound up being a manager of a really nice athletic club. It was actually a tennis athletic club. And it was where they held, by the way, I was never fortunate enough to go. I even had a membership there, which he forged for me. My name was Brent Youngborg, our friend Brent. So I had a membership card to AVAC. It was Almaden Valley Athletic Club. And anyway, they had all kinds of tennis courts there as well. And it was where they held every year the USTA teens, like the teen girls, not the boys, just the teenage girl tennis competitions every year at this athletic club. I was not able to tune in for that, but he was his friend, which also worked there for him at one point, went on to manage to take care of all the pools at Stanford and stuff. That guy was a jerk, though. I never liked him. In the Bay Area of California, we would go skate sometimes we'd go skate like through the night on a weekend in the Silicon Valley area, where literally the whole city would check out, the whole business district would just check out. And you'd have, in Sunnyvale, Santa Clara area, you'd have various high-tech companies, Memorex, and one thing they all did on the weekends is they'd split, and they had kind of fancy new buildings with cool structures and stuff, and we'd go skate it. Like LTX was the place to go. So, okay, that's all very valuable information. I should probably carry on and talk about some other things now. And by the way, we're going to forego the commercial break in this particular show. I mean, the promo that plays during the break is also outdated now as it refers to the Thursday night time slot, which, of course, now we're on Saturday night. Anyway, so I just spent the time it would have taken to do the break telling you about not doing the break. So how's that for a waste of time? What the hell? I'm going to give you a cut off my upcoming musical extravaganza by yours truly. I call this one Hoaxociation. And here we go.
Tragic.
Conspiracy.
Conspiracy theory.
I think your true talents are wasted on them.
The supreme authority from which all other authority is derived.
Hoax. The government.
If you haven't seen the show Joe Schmo, it's a reality show. All right, it was, I don't know, maybe almost 10 years ago now, probably, the way time flies. But it's a reality show, and it's the only reality show I ever saw. I mean, I've watched an episode or a half episode of Survivor, or trying to think of what, oh gosh, I tried to put like 15 minutes into a, what is it, Big Brother? Is that it? And it was like season 16 or, whatever the hell it was. And by that time, I actually I've got the 3 DVD collection. Well, it's just one season because it was something you could only do once. It was, they set up a reality show. They called it Lap of Luxury, I believe. And it was set in this really nice home. I'm sure it was in Southern California somewhere, down in that area, Palm Springs maybe or something. But it was a really nice, like 2-story, which is a little odd, 2-story like mission style villa, kind of nice, kind of big. And anyway, so there were like 12 competitors or something. But one guy, this guy Matt, was chosen specifically by the whole operation to be the Joe Schmo. He was the only guy that wasn't in on it. The rest of them were all actors. And then, of course, the real producers of the show. And it's just funny as hell. And, they do their and they do their ritual ceremony, with their robes and stuff where they have to boot someone out type of thing. Like they give them a rose and then slap him and, But at this time, the smarmy host guy says, what's he say? He goes, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, you're dead to us. And then he throws a commemorative plate with their face on it into the fireplace, breaking the thing. And what's hilarious is, at one point in time, this guy who's a total jerk, he gets kicked off the show, at which time he goes and actually gets angry, grabs his own plate, throws it in there, and he goes, screaming and acting like a jerk and whatever. It's actually an actor, I can't remember his name at the moment. Anyway, an actor guy who now he's been in a few things. It's David Hornsby. Funny guy. But anyway, he goes and storms out, but then somehow he magically is, some kind of legal issue comes up. He's actually he's allowed to return to the show. So then they go to the next, whatever ritual, they're booting someone out, and his plate is back up. It's been taped together, which I just thought was really, if I didn't know or knew either way, I would not be able to not laugh at that. Cause that is real. That's like, slapstick comedy right there. It's really good. Anyway, so watch Joe Schmo, get it on Netflix or whatever, or buy the damn thing. It's such a great show. And the people are so, I like the people. There's this one guy who plays a Cuban gay guy, but in reality, he's not Cuban. He has no accent. He's just some guy from Chicago or something, and he is not gay, right? So, but he's extremely flamboyant, and he has that like Cuban accent. It was so funny to watch. But anyway, the best part of the whole thing is it's one of these lesson type things. Matt, the guy who's the Joe Schmo, the dude. You get the sense that maybe he does know. You know what I mean? Let's get real here. But at various times, the guy, the way he acts and behaves, the guy's just like a straight up guy and a real, almost hero level person. And he's always the person who will be helpful. He's there with encouragement. And you could just tell that this guy is a really nice guy. Bottom line, that's just, and he won over the hearts of all the people, and they had to do various things. They were trying to, it was all a scripted thing. Every contest and everything was all carefully scripted. Now things went wrong. A woman got hurt. They do a sumo thing, and he he slams into her for the first time, and he really knocked her, clocked her. Boom, she landed. It was a Kristen Wiig, actually. So another actress. Anyway, they did a fantastic job, but they got to like Matt. And in the end, when they had the final showdown, they turned and, they revealed to Matt, you are Joe Schmo. You're the winner the whole time from the start. You were the winner because it's all about you, right? And he's like, what the hell is going on? He starts to break down and he's getting a little like, whoa, don't touch me, man. You know what I mean? And then when the gay guy, the Cuban gay guy turns in his normal voice and goes, I'm sorry, I'm not Cuban, I'm not even gay. And he just was like, whoa. And you could see he was getting a little lightheaded. I think it was real. I think the guy was real. And they were crying, the women on the show at that point. I mean, they were bawling like someone in their family had died. watching these DVDs for a second time, it was like, wow. It was like seeing it all again. It was really, really entertaining. And I really liked the people. And, you know, I kind of feel like, well, you know, it's weird because these are actors, and there's the host guy's like a jerk, like like I say, he's a smarmy host guy who's really funny in a way. You know, they're very good at this. You know, obviously, they had to live with each other. And in fact, at one point, they're sleeping 2 a bed or 3 a bed in these big, giant, like California king-size beds in this thing. It's part of the goof of the show. I don't know exactly why. A couple of those girls I would have been very willing to sleep with. And I'm sad to this day that I didn't. But it was them and not me. They got to be on this show. If I were the Joe Schmo guy, though, I don't know. No, I would not take that. That show was made for this Matt guy. Just bottom line. They picked this guy, and he was perfect. In fact, he would be actually driving the show's progress just naturally, right? Unconsciously, even though they were very cautious not to focus on him, right? Because this is a show where everyone's an equal participant. But of course, you know, they needed but then like behind the scenes when they do their confessionals or whatever, and they talk to the camera and explain what's been happening, the guy, I tell you, in between every event of the show, he's the guy that has the prophetic words of wisdom or can sum it up. And I don't think he ever suspected anything like, you know, the show being all about him. They might have thought, you know, this show's kind of rigged or whatever. And they kind of let him in on the fact that, you know, TV's messed up. You know, I'm going to tell you the story now about, because these are all great. This is very important stuff. It is. Another reason why, maybe subconsciously I'm down on the media is one time, my girlfriend and I was living in Pacifica, just south of San Francisco on the coast. So I could see the ocean, but it was like up a mountain, you know, so it was like not exactly an ocean view, but you could see the ocean. Do you know what I mean? With your naked eye, not with binoculars or something, but at any rate. And it was an expensive apartment, and it was not great. It really was not. It was very much like, you know, hey, I found a place. It'll do. Let's just get in. So, we were out and about one day, and came home, and I saw there was a van. It was obviously a production van, one of these large kind of, I don't know, it's like almost like a milk truck or a painter's truck or something. But it says on the side, whatever that show was with Don Johnson and Cheech Marin, what was that show called? Drunky and Beaner or something. I don't know. Was that it? No, it was something else. But there was, you know. So I saw the name of their show on the side, and I thought, whoa, are they filming this here? Oh, wow. So as I got closer to the apartment, I pulled in, and I realized, oh, wow, they're all around. There's a bunch of, you know, gear and equipment stuff all around I'm on the second floor, and they were all around the stairs going up to my second floor and down around in the parking area right there, just kind of hovering about. And I was like, oh, wow, interesting, cool. How interesting. So maybe we'll get to see Don Johnson, right? That'd be great. Or Cheech Marin or one of these, you know. And actually I didn't really care all that much. But you know, I mean, a brush with that kind of thing, you know, but hey, they were right there. It was going to happen one way or another. Whatever was going to happen was going to happen. And that's really kind of what the bottom line of this story is in the end, as you'll soon find out here. So we go ahead and head upstairs. I maybe waved, said hi to someone on the way up. They were not blocking the stairs at that point. I went to the apartment, and I went, you know what? I'm going to set up the video camera in the window here. And I was trying to be not too obvious about it. And I just kind of set it, you know, the front bedroom was it was daytime still, you know, it was the afternoon, and it was a fairly nice day, fairly sunny. And so my girlfriend, she's like, oh, yeah, do that. It'd be funny. You know, just then turn it on. And if, you know, he happens to pass by or something, we'll get a shot of him. And I said, all right. So I said that. But I was half not thinking about it. So what happened is my girlfriend goes into the living room and gets on to my office computer there, starts getting on the net, doing something. And so I go off and do something. All of a sudden, like, I don't know, maybe it's 15 minutes later, and I think we might have, like, smoked a joint and turned on some jazz and just try to enjoy our afternoon. And what happened, and then there's a knock at the door, and it was like, knock, 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 like kind of like a weird knock. And it went, huh? Kind of a sloughy knock, you know, where it's like, dude, you know, you got to knock and then remove the knuckles. You know, it's more like a drag knock. I don't know what I'm saying, but something in my head went, who's that? And I went to the door, and it was some freaking gangster. I mean, a straight up, West Side San Jose gangster dude. And he goes, what are you filming? Kind of thing. He calls me out on the filming of, he's like, you can't be filming us, man. Give me the tape, man. He's like strong-arming me. And I'm thinking as I'm talking to him, oh man, I do not want to get into it with this guy. And I'm literally able to see from my door. I'm able to just turn my head and look down slightly to see, like, people are sitting on the stairs, like, with headsets on and like drinking a soda and eating an orange. And there's like some obviously producer or production assistant type people meandering about, and they are like deathly silent. Like, this guy is now speaking for the group, and he's knocked on my door and demanded the videotape that I'm filming from inside my apartment of whatever the hell's going on outside. And my first thought was, this dude's trying to strong arm me. He's going to get violent with me. And so I was all like, I turned to my girlfriend, and I could see that she was not going to be a problem with this. She was like, whatever, man, like, if you got to get violent, and, you got to do what you got to do. So she was cool. And then, so I'm all like, I started to raise my voice, and I was like, I just want to see Don Johnson, man. I mean, what's the problem? So then I thought, well, I'm like, all right, come on in, man. And then all of a sudden I hear from like the director of this whole production or whatever, I hear this woman, don't do it, Dijon, or whatever the hell the guy's name was. And, the guy was obviously not an upstanding person. That's just the bottom line. And, apparently he had problems understanding the law, as I came to find out the rest of these people did. So I was starting to get hot. I was very irritable at that point. And since she said, don't go in there, meaning, she was thinking already, like, don't go in his apartment because then we'll be the bad guys, right? Not even thinking that, well, maybe you should just, maybe she could have maybe stopped Dijon from coming to the door, demanding a videotape, Anyway, plus what was I actually, I'm sure nothing was on that film, but I would never find out, and you'll see why. So, I go, all right, fine, you can have the tape. And then my girlfriend, I heard her say something like, there's some golf on there I want to keep, or something stupid like that. Literally, which just being actually kind of like just being a bitch in a way. Cause at that point I was all like, no, I'm just going to give him the tape cause I'm angry and I don't want this dude coming around here anymore. And I need to get my head screwed on. And at that time too, I looked across the street of, you can kind of see like I could see parked on the street right out there, a black and white, a San Francisco cop just parked there. And so obviously the cop was just an off-duty cop doing a security bit for this silly production. And it dawns on me as all this is going on that this ain't no Don Johnson thing. It's just the production company that does whatever the hell that, major network show is doing something stupid. And it turns out they're filming a frickin' rap video or a scene in a rap video in the apartment beneath mine. And who even knows what the hell was going on down there or what they were doing. I mean, it was goofy as hell to think about this. And in retrospect, it's like, look, I don't know what I was doing. Let's put the camera up to get a shot of Don Johnson, thinking maybe there'd be something cool. And who knows what it would have caught. And I didn't think there was anything wrong in doing it, or it was somehow being invasive. It was, in fact, in my opinion, as non-invasive as you could kind of get. I've been more invasive with celebrities, just having my camera out on the sidewalk, pointing it right at them, doing, panning along as they walk by. I don't care. I wasn't approaching them. They were approaching me, for God's sakes. So I go in the back to get it, and he's waiting at the front door. The door's wide open. My girlfriend won't even turn around. She's back sitting at the computer, won't even turn to even look at this guy, because it's like, who the hell are you, So I go back there, and what I do is I go to grab the tape out of the thing, and the tape snags in the thing. And so there's tape, it's like I got 3 or 4 feet of the tapes, flopping around. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So I reach in and I just go, screw it, bam. And I just pulled the tape, broke the the videotape itself. So now I got the tape and I'm walking out and it's literally tapes dangling around. So the tape's always no good. It was quite the bon mot, right? I don't think he was expecting it, and I wasn't, so it was kind of like, we were both kind of like, huh? So I'm like, well, here you go, man. Here you go. And then I said, look, man, I don't know what the problem is. I'm in my home. I can film anyone. I'm in my home. You can't film into my home, but I can film you. He's like, no, that ain't how it works, dude. No, you ain't going to be filming us, man. And I'm like, whatever. Boom. I shut the door. And so I'm like, Jennifer, what the hell's going on? What just happened? Some guy just strong-armed me for a freaking video cassette, and we were having a good time enjoying our afternoon. Hollywood came to town, and it was rap video Hollywood, and they were going to ruin an innocent couple's afternoon. And I'll tell you, it was very aggravating. But so like 5 minutes passed, and then there's another, like a more, knock, knock, knock at the door. So I go over there, and there's this kind of puny, obviously Jewish kind of, I don't know what they call these guys, but he's some kind of producer level guy, maybe. And he starts to go, hey, how you doing? And he immediately is like, he's got his card out. Like he's got, hey, here's your card, hey, like I won it. And I'm like, And I grab it and I look down and he's telling me, hey, so listen, I'm so sorry about, some of our people here, they're not from around here. It's like, he starts to play that and I'm letting him do it because I think, oh, this is going to be funny. I can't wait till he starts going, you know how these guys are, right? Because I'm going to go, look, dude, if you're like that, what the hell are you doing working in this industry? You should go ahead and get yourself a real job. You don't have to work with guys like Dijon, who's out, who doesn't understand the mechanics of the law and stuff. So he tries to kind of sweet talk me. And he goes, hey, if you got any problems, you just give me a call, man. And I forget like kind of what his gig, he had a point to it. And he was the one who explained that, look, we're filming a rap video. Oh, and then as I go, listen, I don't even care. I don't care. It's over. I don't want the tape. He's got the tape. We're done. I'm not recording anything. So just leave us alone or whatever. And he goes, oh, and by the way, we're filming a rap video downstairs. So within the next hour to 2 hours, you might hear like a couple of gunshots, but it's just going to be blanks. It'll be very not too loud. I was like, oh yeah, okay. That's great, man. Appreciate the info, which by the way, I did not hear any gunshots, after that. To be honest, my theory is that whatever it was they were filming down there probably never made it into anything. These guys probably waste so much time and energy and these guys might have been doing a video and it was some kind of like, like a pilot thing, where they showed it to like 10 grandmas and 10 youngsters and 10 middle-aged people, and they all went, turned the dial to the left, and it never made, went direct to the trash can. But either way, that was my first, that was my first Hollywood experience. Actually, no, the first Hollywood experience I had actually was before that, which I'll briefly, is a much shorter story. But, so to wrap up that adventure, I remembered, hey, that cop is out there. So I go, I'm calling the cops. I'm just going to call the cops and say some guy came to my house and demanded they give him a video. I just want to make sure that I filed charges against this guy for doing that. If there's a crime, I wasn't really thinking, and really it was a crime. It was more like I gave it to him. It was a gift. So I get on the phone with the cops and I tell them, I'm like, look, some guy, and I was obviously, very irritable. I explained that there's a whole production crew here, blah, blah. I go, look, there's a squad car. I can read you the number that's out right on the street out here. You can tell him and he can respond. You'll only have to walk like 50 yards to be here. And she essentially explained to me on the phone, this is like 911. I've called 911 to report this. And she's taking the time to explain to me, to ask me, okay, so, did he come in your home? Did he strike you? Or it was like, no. I told you what happened, and it turned into, look, all right, okay. She says, look, why don't you ask him for the tape back? Which, I think that would be funny. So I hung up the phone because obviously I was not getting anywhere with the police. There was not going to be any like justice on this day. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to be that guy. So I opened up my door to the apartment and I go out onto the landing and I kind of just lean on the landing and I'm just feet away from all these people and they're all still out there. And when I came out, they all went silent again. And I was like, hey, how's it going? And I just kind of like leaned on there and I just went, oh yeah, I don't know what you guys are doing. What do you think? Did you see that? I know you all saw what just happened. Is that cool? Like, who's in charge? Do you feel like that's a special day for you? You're going to go home and go and snicker with your partner and think about how fun it was for me to be part of your gangster video crap that turned into just being a nuisance in this neighborhood. Which, by the way, hey, this is my apartment. I didn't ask you to be here. I don't even know what right you have to be here. And then someone was all like, we have the right. We got the clearance from the property owners or whatever. I'm like, I don't care about that. I'm sure you did. I'm sure it's all on the up and up. But I'll tell you, what I learned from that experience was that Hollywood has to film this stuff. When you see something filmed and it's in someone's home and it looks like a real home, that's someone's home, more often than not. And in other scenes where they're, having some kind of a confrontation in the front of a gas station, that's a gas station somewhere. Maybe that's the gas station that you go to that, you may be low on gas and that's the closest one to you. And on that day, there'll be no gas for you, sir, because you're not qualified to be an extra in their Hollywood production and the show must go on. But it's a bunch of crap. That is an absolute bunch of crap. The manager of the pizza joint that I worked at in Los Gatos, who I didn't know very well, but he lived next door to where I lived. I mean, literally, it was very nice, upscale kind of neighborhood where my grandparents live. I lived with my grandparents at that time. I'm like 14. He's like, I don't know, 18, 19, 20. And I come home late at night one night because I just thought, I knew he wasn't at work that day. The man, my normal manager, Barry O'Halloran. And I get home, it's like 11:30. I rode home in the almost pitch dark. There was no moon out along these roads, and there's no street lamps as you get into the neighborhood. So it was like my eyes were barely adjusted. It was basically a dark ride, that last couple turns, and I pulled in. It's like 11:30. I turn on Carson, and Barry is on Johnny Carson. The manager of the pizza joint I work at, my manager, Barry, whom I helped to load illegal fireworks into a truck one time for him. That guy was on Johnny Carson. And I'll tell you, I have a video up on my YouTube channel, TNN, that details this. It's kind of like I go into my background a little bit to build to this point, so there's some context, and then it ends by showing the segment. And I got to tell you, the segment's like 13 minutes long or something, and they went through 2 segments with a commercial break and everything. So he was on Carson as this guy who spins pizza dough. Like he's one of those guys. He spins pizza dough. So apparently, if you do that and you're this redheaded young guy, you get to go on Johnny Carson and the Tonight Show and have jokes and joke around with Ed McMahon and stuff. And then after they talk and do the couch thing, boom, they come back from commercial. They got a whole thing set up with sauce and cheese and dough, and they're doing a whole bit, right? Now Johnny's spinning pizza dough, trying to throw it up. That's what I think it ruined my life. I might have actually it might have split me into an alter. There's probably an alter me. I know my psyche is destroyed because of that. And I would say, hey, I'm not, I don't feel like bad, like, I wasn't strong enough or something. Because were this to happen to you, I would suggest if your manager of the pizza joint you worked at, for no known reason, was on the Carson show, and of course when I pulled in at like 11:30, I had to ride home on my dad's old Schwinn varsity bike that I had fixed up just to be rideable, and the tires were like the tires that he was riding way back in the early 60s, right? So I patched like one of the tubes, and I don't even know if I oiled the chain. I was using that to get back and forth from work. And when I rode home that night, my grandparents were both asleep. So I went into a dark house, didn't turn on any lights. I just turned on the TV. I plopped down, and the manager of the pizza joint's on Carson. And so that was kind of the end of a certain life I had. It was the end of innocence, that's for sure. Yeah, but what do you do? There's a lot of stories I can tell. I can go on and on. I told you about Jay who smashed 2 cars on prom night. I have to credit him too, though, for helping me. He saved me from getting my ass kicked by Shabba Ranks. I don't know if you know who Shabba Ranks is, but that guy was going to kick my ass. And Jay, actually, he saved me by elbowing me in the chest really hard. But I was really drunk at the time. I was a little bit tipsy, a little bit wasted, and Shabba Ranks was displeased with me, and it was pretty obvious. And so his conscience said, hey, you know what? I'm going to elbow my friend so hard that it's going to wake his ass up and switch him, into a different mode, so he does not attract the punishing blows of Shabba Ranks. I still like Shabba Ranks though. Good. It was a good concert too. I've been to a lot of concerts. My friends and I and my family and I, we've done a lot of hell, my grandfather back in the day, I remember him telling me how he loved going and seeing, I have to understand my grandfather was kind of a pretty stern character, kind of a no-nonsense guy, and, an IBM career guy and all that. And he goes and he's telling me about how he really enjoyed seeing Emerson, Lake and Palmer one time, and he was fascinated by the drum kit that could spin around as he played, and quite an upbringing on that side. I didn't have a really good upbringing though. My parents were hippies. They were both 16 when they had me. So it was in fact, in my first few months, 2 months, 3 months, maybe even of life, I've never looked into it. I'm not sure how much information I could obtain. I'd have to be very diligent, I would imagine. And nobody knows anything. I've asked my dad, when was I circumcised? Because I was circumcised, and I'm assuming it was in the first 2 or 3 days. That's what they were doing at that time in the late 60s, when I was born in California. I would assume. I doubt it was any later than that. But I was curious about that, and one time my mom mentioned that when she had me under a different name. She named me a different name too. She named me Kenneth Grace when I was born. And then something like some very short time later, they went and just had the file updated, didn't even go through any other process. They just asked them, can you change it on the birth certificate itself to read the new name? And they then named me Peter Darren Klein, Darren after Bobby Darin. So, you get into their heads a little bit here. But so for the first 2 or 3 months of life, though, I was not even in their care. My mom mentioned just casually at one point to me that, it was very, you were taken in by foster parents when you were born, because of whatever reason. I went, wait, hold on. Because it dawned on me, wait. In my mind, I was thinking they took me home for a night or something and then returned me to the hospital like they did their duty. But no. I went, I was taken from my mom. And of course, now that I know a lot more about how this works, after I've been reading the Vedas a lot recently, in a book by a woman who has done a lot of analysis of it, who's also extremely like a naturopath type, I don't believe she's an MD, but she's very learned, and I would go to her before any other physician probably, if I had a serious issue and it wasn't requiring an absolute specialist. And maybe that's the whole problem. But at any rate, she has described, and I know a lot more about how important it is that everything from the way a woman while pregnant should not, first of all, there should be a 6-month gestation period, typically. There should be a birth. The child should weigh roughly 6 pounds. This is going back thousands of years, to where when people lived to be 300 years old, didn't even begin to procreate until in their 40s or 50s. They were still in puberty up until their 40s, essentially. We lived a much longer life and a much richer, fuller life, and we knew things more inherently, like how to be a physical, procreating human, male or female. There was no androgyny at that time. Androgyny was the first illness, as it's stated in, it's essentially it's referred to as an illness. It was the beginning of the fall, and then things began to happen as well that affected our genetics over time, and a lot of radiation problems also were concerned. So much so that there was a certain kind of disk or object placed into orbit, or rather placed into a fixed position in the above Earth in order to shield part of Earth every day from certain radiation concerns for certain people. I say certain because I don't want to misstate who exactly I'm talking about here. All that stuff is really, it's all new to me. But anyway, the mother is supposed to, while pregnant, not like work at all. No work. I mean, and no, definitely no stress. No stress. Stress is also a problem. And no loud noises. This woman who writes this analysis of the Vedas, she describes sonograms as being absolutely insane. They say that one of the common things that happens, a woman goes in to see her baby through a sonogram, and they look and see, and the child will kick or something, and they'll say, all right, look, he's going to be a kicker for the 49ers or something, thinking, wow, how great that is. But in reality, the child is going, it's kind of like all of a sudden, wah, 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 wah. You know, their world just is immediately interrupted by these sonic waves that are just bombarding them from all sides. And it's also stressful. And then the birth happens, and the modern birth process is not like it was. In the old days, a birth was not painful. And it was, I mean, this is the way it's described. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, back in the day, there were, some of these books, these scriptures and so forth, you cannot, they discount as being, unofficial or on the fringe or something. Well, that's where they tell you, what the hell's going on. That's where it's thousands of pages of explicit detail. And it's, like talking to an old friend in a way, some of the translations. So they're pretty straightforward and describe the birth process as being very natural. The woman is typically giving birth while hunched, literally just crouched down, and she gives birth to the baby into her own hands. And this sounds like a primitive thing, but no. This was not primitive whatsoever. I mean, you can imagine it that way, but in this scenario, it's not. And then the woman will be in contact with the child. She puts the child directly onto her breast. The breastfeeding begins immediately, and the breast milk it's soma. That's what breast milk is. It's soma. I'm going through a whole lot of working on video now, second part of the spiders and owls thing, and I've already been dealing with one bodily fluid, and then I was going to continue, and I don't know if I'll get to it in this edition, and I don't know for sure at this point if it's going to be the second and final or 2 of a 3-part series. So I don't know whether I'll get this information in there about breast milk and how important it is. But I did put how important it is not to have your penis cut off on the 8th day after birth. Well, your foreskin. A very important first day of puberty is on your 8th day. It's a 21-day puberty. You go through many puberties, as it turns out. So I was just basically I was on the Gloria Steinem program from birth. They went, boom. I popped out. Oh, I was a cesarean birth, too. It just gets better and better. So then my mom says they sent me to, I was taken by a foster family. I don't know who they were. And she at first was like 2 weeks, and then it was 2 months. And I don't know now if I were to ask her for sure if she would say 2 weeks or 2 months or 3 months or 3 weeks. I don't know. And so I don't know how I was raised for the first, the most important time of my life. That's why I am how I am. It's because of that. Because of everything. In fact, we're failed experiments pretty much across the board when we're so completely screwed from conception, essentially. We have absolutely no concept. We are devolving. And in my video that I'm working on now, as I say, the Spiders and Owls video, part 2, I'm going way deeper into this whole, it's an absolute fact. It's just a fact now. I don't need to question it anymore. I want to look into it more so I get a greater understanding of the depth and the detail, so I know exactly how it is that I'm totally screwed. Because you know what? I might be able to milk a few extra years out of this life, or maybe experience one answer to one of the mysteries of life, maybe, or something. I mean, there's that. Or maybe I'll have one fulfilling relationship. Maybe I'll start a family on my own in my 50s. Can you imagine being 40 years old and being a virgin, and that was normal, that was average, and then 50, women would be giving birth, men would be having their first sexual relationships. They weren't driven by desires in the way we have now. They were driven by something totally different. And, so if you think about it like that, let's carry it forward. You got a breast that is just like the breast of all these animals. And I always see these animals like, have you ever seen like a a cow and it's just sucking on that big cow's teat, or a goat is doing the same thing, or a rat is doing the same, and on, right? But see, humans now don't do that, or they don't have to. It's a little bit of a burden because, the mom has got to get out of the house and go work and stuff, right? So she gives birth and they put him into daycare. What do you feel when you hear that phrase, daycare? Oh, daycare sounds great. Well, not anymore. Daycare. Saying, well, daycare is expensive. It is. Care in the day is expensive. Oh, I get it. In the modern context, I got you. Yeah, that's right. So anyway, we're so disconnected from the natural, our humanity. Our humanity is actually gone. And it isn't just because we're, totally mindless, mean-spirited, and careless. And certainly we are not, we are not good stewards of our society and our culture and humanity itself. We are not good stewards. That's why I really think a guy like Professor Doom, whom, people have varying opinions of him, but I've always appreciated his approach. And I always like the fact that he digs and digs and digs and digs. And he's digging what seems to be an impossible mountain, in the attempt to level it and just be able to say, I found it all. And I now can say, I know what is here, what we have to deal with. Because, he's doing that job. He is acting as the steward for our culture, for our history, so that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. So we have a chance, maybe, to be something better than we seem to be heading for. This inevitable downward trend. We're vacuous, dim-witted. Some of us, we all have great traits, some of us, right? And some of us more than others. Like, I'm not very good across the board. I have some specialized understanding, and I do have a kind of a general common sense. That's why I'm good now at, I think, looking at things objectively, kind of, I think if there's anything going on and somebody needs a tiebreaker in an argument or something, I'm usually pretty good, because it turns out, whether they know it or not, I understand the value of someone who is not going to play favorites, who isn't interested in cronyism or kickbacks, or, I actually want to help you solve your problem. I don't want to create a new one for you, right? Or to somehow just pass the buck. What the hell's the point of passing the buck? Why waste the effort? Why not just take that time to fix or resolve the problem? All right, friends, I'm going to wrap up this show. I want to keep it at 1 hour exactly, which, unfortunately, I did not spend too much time excessive blabbing or blabbing excessively, so that the show went like 2 hours and I had to cut an hour of my blabbing out, for better or worse, which is fortunate because I just don't want to spend the time, as we often do so often now in this era of take, and nobody cares about their civic duty. Game theory is on in America. I'm not saying it's irreparable or that that's the end of the line. It's a bit discouraging, I'll admit that. And that's just me being honest. I'm not concerned about my personal conviction or the convictions of the IMS group at large or this program. I think all of that is still moving ahead. But there are issues. One issue is, of course, the concern of, or rather the existence of divisiveness within our independent journalist community. I would also add to that, it's related to the poor tendencies of, our behavioral tendencies, how we view things as well, where we describe, let's say, disinformation and, let's say, activities counter to our agenda, right? And we ascribe magical powers and godlike powers to the establishment where there's nothing to indicate that, or where there's little to. If you were tuned in and heard me describe my views on predictive programming, for instance, a revelation of the method, right? I think there's so much focus on stuff like that ultimately, underneath our surface message, we will inherently have a view that this is an insurmountable problem. And I just don't hold that view at all. because I actually don't, well, and I like to live by my views so that in my present day, as I'm setting a course and as I'm deciding, choosing what in fact will be the next path to take, I don't allow those types of views to, in other words, I still say, hey, I've got the power and I think these are simple solutions, but we just need to do it. But again, the divisiveness in our community makes it difficult to unite so that we can simply form the force that's sufficient enough, the size that's sufficient enough to get it done. And so I would just suggest that our focus will be to, going forward, or at least mine personally, and I'm going to promote this idea, and you may have heard this from me before, but I'm going to promote the idea of having very clearly defined goals and a narrowly defined goal that you clearly set forth up front. So anybody who you're looking to unite with, right, when that possibility exists, there won't be any barrier, whether it be political or otherwise, because you've got this broad agenda, right? Pick a very narrowly defined goal. Almost everyone can agree, yes, that's an issue, and it's a goal that I have as well, and let's just do that, and don't let everything else come into play. And I want to say that I would expect next week we were going to have Professor Doom on to talk with us about, first of all, his work recently, which is important to note. It's heavy stuff. It's heady. It's like I love him because he goes for the big prize, right? He knows right up front that I'm going to try to push a mountain. And yet he still goes forward and does it. Well, let's give him some credit for that and hear what he's found, because it's amazing. I can't deny that he's on the trail to somewhere. So I always encourage him and others. There are others he's a member of IMS, and there are others where they are kind of on a solitary thing. I don't usually expect for them to be as participatory or involved in the numerous projects. They are doing so good on, it's like they found a niche. So go with what you know. So if you'd like to donate to me for my work here, or the show itself here, and we do need to do fundraising, as it were. IMS is not yet at the point where we're going forward with fundraising. We're working still on trying to we're at a critical point with projects right now. But at the same time, this show does need funding. There's just no doubt about it. I could be making over $100,000 a year now, but it would be in a job where I would be full-time, which is typically, 50 to 60 hours a week type full-time. That's going to cut into my efforts tremendously. And who wants to see that? Not me, because this, I've found my calling, and it is sacrificing all this other crap to get something done, and hopefully soon enough that I can get back on my life's track, right? Go back to trying to seek a family. I live here alone. As you may know, my pet cat Hoax, I had to put him down not long ago. That's a touchy subject with me, obviously, because I'm welling up right now. I'm a man who, I don't cry, but, I'll well up. That's for damn sure when it comes to animals. Animal abuse is far more difficult for me to reconcile than even child abuse. Maybe because I ascribe a certain amount of power to a human that I don't to animals. And animals are always trusting, for the most part, naturally. So when you see an animal that's barking and it looks like it's going to bite you, or an animal runs away, that's not natural. That's not natural. Keep that in mind. These are my opinions, people. I guess I should put a disclaimer on any of these things. So anyway, Professor Doom next week, I would hope, if something else comes up, if we crack through, if we solve 9/11 or something, whatever. We'll probably switch gears. That's the way this goes. We gotta fake left and go right, whatever, at times. So just deal with it. Anyway, I don't have no new I do have new music, but I'm not gonna put it out there yet. It's still in development, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, thank you for listening to Fix the Media. This is probably the best show ever, because I just gab. And it turns out that that's what people probably like more than me telling you about stuff, So thanks for listening, and listen next week, Saturday at 8, people. Friends.